My parents told me to take care of my grandfather just until they found help. I gave up everything for them. And when I finally wanted to leave, they called me selfish. You are the only one we can count on. That is what my mom said, standing by the kitchen sink like she always did when she was trying to guilt me into something. She had her hands in the soapy water, but her eyes were fixed on me like she could see through any excuse I might try to give. Dad was sitting at the table with his arms crossed, not saying much, which only made it worse. When he stayed quiet, that meant the decision had already been made. It is just for a while, she added, her voice soft but heavy. Just until we figure something out with the home health nurse. But I knew they were not going to figure anything out. Not really. My grandfather, Pop, had taken a fall a few weeks earlier. Nothing too dramatic, but enough that it scared everyone. The doctors said he was going to need help at home. He could not be left alone, at least not for long. My mom worked part-time at the school. My dad had his carpentry business. My sister? Well, she lived 3 states away and had just had a baby, so she was off the hook. That left me. I had just finished community college. I had a job offer lined up in Kansas City, nothing huge, but it was mine. Marketing assistant at a small firm. Good people, decent pay, and most importantly, a start. A door. And now here I was, standing in the same kitchen I had grown up in, staring down the barrel of a sentence that was supposed to sound temporary, but felt more like a life sentence in slow motion. You know how much he means to you, my dad said finally, like that was supposed to wrap it up. And he did. Pop had always been there. Took me fishing every summer weekend, helped me build my first bike from scraps, showed up to every baseball game, even when I was riding the bench. He was quiet, but steady, never asked for much. Always smelled like Old Spice and pipe tobacco. So when they said it would be the responsible thing to do, stay behind, help out, put my career on pause, I said yes. Not because I wanted to, but because saying no would have made me the bad guy. Selfish. Ungrateful. And if there was one thing my family hated, it was the idea that someone might put themselves first. I turned down the job. Told the company something about family obligations. They were kind about it. Told me to reach back out in a few months. But deep down, I think I already knew I would never make that call. That was 3 years ago. And now, every morning starts the same. I brew Pop's coffee just the way he likes it. 2 sugars, splash of cream, extra hot. I make his eggs, turn on his shows, help him to the bathroom. I sit across from him while he tells the same story about his time in the Navy, nodding like it is the first time I have heard it. Because some part of me still believes him when he says, I hate being a burden. He is not the burden, but the promise I made, that is the weight. And lately, I am starting to wonder if it is ever going to let me go. But the worst part? The part one have never said out loud? I do not think they ever planned on letting me leave. You ever have a dream that fades so slowly, you do not even realize it is gone? That is what these days feel like now. Not some big dramatic collapse. Just a slow erosion. Like water dripping on stone, day after day after day. I wake up at 6. Not because I am a morning person, but because Pop is. He likes his breakfast before the sun gets too high. Says the food tastes better that way. I help him sit up, swing his legs over the side of the bed. His bones crack like old furniture. He always winces, but tells me, still better than the alternative. After breakfast, I clean up while he watches old westerns. Gunsmoke, mostly. I used to like it too. But now the theme song feels like a timer ticking down in the background of my life. I give him his meds, line up his walker, sit nearby in case he needs anything. Sometimes I read. Sometimes I scroll through job postings I never apply for. Sometimes I just stare out the window, counting the neighbors' wind chimes as they move in the breeze. My phone barely buzzes anymore. A few old friends still text here and there. Mostly group messages I do not respond to. At first, they would ask how I was holding up, if I was still planning to move. But after a few months of the same answer, not yet, just waiting for the right time, they stopped asking. Every once in a while, someone from high school pops up with some news. Engaged. Promotion. Moving out west. Building something. Doing something. I always type congrats with an exclamation point and then go lie down for a while, pretending the pit in my stomach is just hunger. There are no days off in this kind of life. No vacation time. No evenings to yourself. There are just needs, schedules, responsibilities. And if you complain, you sound ungrateful. If you say you are tired, they remind you that Pop is the one suffering. He gave you everything, Mom says. You would not be the man you are without him. And she is not wrong. But maybe I do not even know what kind of man I am anymore. Sometimes, after he is asleep, I stand in the hallway staring at the front door. I picture myself opening it, walking out, just going. No note, no plan, just movement. Forward. Somewhere. Anywhere. But then I hear him shift in his bed or call out for water, and I go right back in like I never left. I tell myself I am just waiting for the right moment. But the truth is, the longer I wait, the harder it gets to imagine anything else. And then, one Thursday afternoon, something happened that changed everything. A letter arrived, and it had my name on it. It came in one of those heavy envelopes. The kind that feels too important to throw away, even before you open it. My name was printed clean and bold on the front, Elliot Graham. No junior, no care of, no family address. Just me. I stood there at the mailbox, holding it like it might catch fire. The return address said Ridgeway Institute. Took me a second, but then it hit me. It was that firm in Kansas City. The one I had turned down 3 years ago. I brought it inside, slipped it into my back pocket like I was afraid someone might see. Pop was in the living room, nodding off in his recliner with a blanket over his legs and a bowl of cold oatmeal on the tray table beside him. His snores were soft and steady. Peaceful, in a way I had not felt in a long time. Back in my room, I closed the door and tore the envelope open. It was not a rejection, not even a mass newsletter. It was an offer. Apparently, someone at the firm remembered me. Said my name had come up in a recent hiring meeting. They had pulled my old file, liked what they saw. Said they admired how I had put family first, but hoped I might be ready now to revisit our previous conversation. There it was, an actual job. A good one. Full benefits. Room to grow. They wanted to talk. Soon. I sat on the edge of my bed with the letter in my hands, reading it over and over, like the words might change if I blinked too fast. The funny thing is, I should have felt excited. I should have been over the moon. But all I felt was this strange panic. Not fear. More like guilt. Like I had done something wrong just by being wanted. When I told Mom about it that night, she did not say anything at first. She just stood by the sink, wiping her hands on a dish towel, then asked, "So you are really thinking about leaving now?" I told her I had not decided yet, that it was just a conversation. Dad, who had just come in from the garage, let out a long sigh like someone had told him his truck needed a new engine. "We are this close to getting home health again," he said, not even looking at me. "We just need a few more weeks." Same line as before, just stretched out to fit a new shape. I brought up how long a while had already been, that I had put things off, stayed back, given everything I had. I thought they might at least understand. Instead, my mom got quiet, then said something I never expected to hear. "You used to have so much potential. But now, it is like you are looking for excuses. You have no drive anymore." No drive. That one landed hard. After all this time, after giving up my life to make theirs easier, they thought I was the problem? I did not sleep that night. Not a wink. But around 3 in the morning, I made a decision. I was going to that interview, and they were not going to stop me. I did not tell them I was leaving that morning. I just got up, showered, and dressed like I was going to the store. Button-down shirt, clean jeans, real shoes instead of the old slippers I wore around the house. I poured Pop's coffee, set out his breakfast, and scribbled a note. "Back in a few hours. Call if you need me." Then I walked out the door like I still belonged to myself. The drive to Kansas City took a little over 3 hours, and the entire time my brain was bouncing between guilt and hope, like two kids fighting in the back seat. Every sign I passed felt like a checkpoint I was not supposed to reach. Every turn, a small rebellion. But the closer I got to the city, the more something in my chest started to loosen. The firm's building was all glass and polished metal, one of those sleek mid-rise offices that looked like it belonged in a movie. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes before I finally got out, hands trembling just enough to make me feel 12 years old again. But the interview? It went better than I could have imagined. They remembered everything. My old internship, the recommendations, the project I had done on rural market engagement. The guy leading the meeting, a man named Russell, even said, "We were honestly surprised someone like you did not end up with a bigger title by now." I almost laughed. If only he knew. He offered me the job before I left the building. Full-time, remote optional for the first 6 months, then hybrid if I wanted it. The salary was more than anything I had ever earned. I should have been celebrating. But when I stepped outside, Reality was already clawing its way back in. My phone had 3 missed calls from home. 2 texts from Mom. Is Pop okay? Where are you? I called her on the drive back. When I told her about the interview and the offer, she went silent for a long time. Then she said, "So you planned this behind our backs?" I told her it was not behind anyone's back. I had a right to see what was still out there for me. "You are abandoning us," she said, her voice sharp now. "After everything we gave you." What they gave me. That was rich. But I stayed calm. Told her I was not leaving that day. I just needed time to think. When I got home, Dad would not even look at me. He kept pretending to mess with the lawnmower, even though it had already been winterized. Pop smiled when he saw me. Asked if I had brought back any new stories. I told him I had one I was working on. He said, "I always knew you were meant for more." That night, while washing dishes, Mom finally said what she had been holding in. "If you go, just know you are not the only one hurting. You are being selfish." There it was. Selfish. The word they say for people who stop letting themselves be used. But I was done feeling guilty. And the next morning, I made a call that would change everything. Not just for me, but for them, too. I waited until the sun was up before I dialed the number. My heart was pounding so hard I had to sit down at the kitchen table, right in the seat where I had been told, 3 years earlier, that this was only temporary. Russell answered on the second ring. Said he was glad to hear from me. I told him I was in, but I needed 2 weeks to get things in order at home. He said that was more than fine. The moment I hung up, it was like a dam broke inside me. Not joy exactly, just relief. Like I had been holding my breath for 3 years and finally remembered how to inhale. But when I turned around, Mom was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes cold. "So that is it?" she asked. "You were just going to walk away?" I told her it was not walking away. It was walking towards something. Something I had earned. Dad came in from the porch a few minutes later, like she had sent for backup. He did not say a word to me. Just grabbed a glass from the cupboard and filled it with water like I was not even in the room. They were not mad because I got a job. They were mad because I had the audacity to want something outside of them. That afternoon, I sat with Pop and told him everything. I told him I had taken a job in Kansas City, and I would still visit every chance I got. That I would help get the nurse situation handled before I left. That this was not about leaving him. He just looked at me and said, "You gave me more time than anyone else would have. Go make something of yourself, kid." I do not know if he meant it, or if he just knew it was what I needed to hear. That night at dinner, Mom did not set a place for me. Dad said, "Do not expect to come running back when it falls apart." I did not respond. What I wanted to say would have burned the whole house down. Instead, I went back to my room, closed the door, and packed one drawer. One drawer felt like 1,000 pounds. But I kept going. The next morning, I found something tucked under my bedroom door. A handwritten letter. From my sister. And what she said inside flipped everything I thought I knew. I almost stepped on it when I opened my door. A white envelope, bent at the corner, just sitting there like it had been slid under in the middle of the night. My name was written across the front in my sister's handwriting. Amanda. I had not heard much from her in months. She had her hands full. Husband, newborn, new city. She called sometimes, but it was always rushed, with crying in the background or dishes clinking while she half whispered into her phone like she was sneaking the conversation. I sat down on my bed, tore the letter open, and started reading. "Elliot, I wanted to say this before things got worse. I heard from Mom that you got a job offer." She sounded furious, which honestly means you probably did something right. "I know they asked you to stay. I know they said it was temporary. They said the same thing to me after I left. But here is the truth. They never planned for it to be temporary. They just wanted to keep you in that house because it was easier than hiring help, easier than making sacrifices. You were always the dependable one, the quiet one, the one who did not complain. I see it now, the same way I saw it back then. They used your kindness like currency, and now they are angry that you are trying to spend it on yourself. You owe them nothing, Elliot. And I mean that. I love Pop. We both do. But you gave up years for him. For them. That was never your job to begin with. You just filled in the space they were too selfish to take. Do not let them pull you back in. They will try. I hope you leave. And I hope you never come back unless it is on your terms. I am proud of you. Amanda." I sat there for a long time after reading it. That was the first time anyone in my family had said they were proud of me in years. Maybe ever. I folded the letter and tucked it into the side pocket of my duffel bag. Not because I wanted to carry it with me, but because I knew I would need the reminder when things got hard. That evening, I told Pop the exact day I was leaving. He nodded slowly, eyes a little wet, but he did not argue. Mom just walked out of the room. Dad muttered something about how I would come crawling back. Maybe he thought I was still the same version of myself, the one who had said yes in that kitchen 3 years ago. But I wasn't. Not anymore. 2 nights before I was set to leave, Pop took a turn. And what he told me in those final hours was not at all what I expected. The house was quiet when it happened. I had just finished brushing my teeth when I heard the sound, soft, shaky breathing from down the hall, broken up by little coughs that did not sound right. I dropped everything and rushed to Pop's room. He was sitting up, kind of, propped against the pillows, his skin pale and lips dry. His eyes found mine, and right away, I knew something was different. He looked clear, not confused, not half asleep, just clear. "Sit," he whispered. So I did. For a while, we just sat in silence, listening to the hum of the old box fan in the corner. Then he said something I will never forget. "They told me to ask you." I frowned. "Ask me what? To stay? To help? They said you'd listen to me." He looked ashamed. I had never seen him like that. He had always been proud, strong. Even as his body failed him, his spirit had held. "I did not know it would last this long," he said. "I thought a few weeks. A couple months, maybe." I swallowed hard. "And when it stretched longer?" I asked. He looked down at his frail hands. "I got used to having you around," he said. I kept quiet. "That's on me." There it was. The truth I had never expected to hear. "You should have gone, Elliot. You still should." I felt this ache build in my chest, like a storm waiting behind my ribs. "You're not a burden," I told him. He gave a weak laugh. "Maybe not to you, but I was to them. That's why they never stayed." He closed his eyes for a second, breathing slow and shallow. "I watched you fade here, piece by piece. And I said nothing. That's not what love is. That's just survival." I wanted to say something, anything, but no words came out. "Promise me something," he said, eyes locking onto mine. "Promise me you won't let them decide the rest of your life." I nodded. That was all I could do. He squeezed my hand with what little strength he had left. "You deserve more than a just for a while." He passed away 2 mornings later. Peacefully, quietly, while I sat beside him holding his hand. At the funeral, Mom barely looked at me. But after everyone left, she finally told me the truth. And it changed everything. Funerals bring out the best and worst in people. Ours was small. Pop never wanted anything big. Just some hymns, a few stories, and enough sandwiches afterward to feed the neighbors. People came and went with tight smiles and warmer words than I ever expected. A few old fishing buddies. One of the nurses who used to drop by. Even the mailman stood near the back for a while. Mom spent most of the service standing like stone. Barely cried. Barely spoke. My dad shook hands, cracked his jaw like he was chewing through the day. Amanda flew in last minute, held my hand through the whole thing. She whispered, "You did everything you could," but I still felt like my chest was full of wet cement. After everyone left and the house went quiet, I found Mom in the kitchen. Same spot as always, by the sink, staring out the window like the backyard was about to deliver answers. She did not turn when she spoke. We were never going to find a nurse. I stood there, hands stuffed in my pockets, unsure if I heard her right. We said we were looking, but we weren't. She turned finally, leaning on the counter like she was too tired to keep pretending. "Your dad thought it would be too expensive." And I did not want to admit I could not handle it. "So we told you it was just temporary." I felt the air leave my lungs. I had known. Deep down, I had known. But hearing her say it, flat, simple, like a weather report, made it real. "You gave us an out," she continued. "And we took it." There was no apology in her voice. Just fact. Just guilt, cracked open like a busted pipe. "You were always the one who stayed quiet. Who helped. Who didn't make waves." And then she said the part that still echoes in my head. "We thought if we pushed hard enough, you'd forget you had dreams." That was it. The truth. They did not just want help. They wanted control. And they dressed it up in duty, wrapped it in family, and tied it with a bow labeled gratitude. I did not yell. I did not cry. I just walked out of that house. And what I did next would be the first step back to myself. I did not slam the door. I did not shout. I did not say anything, actually. I just picked up my duffel bag from the hallway, half-packed for 2 weeks now, and walked straight out that front door. The same one I had stared at all those nights, too scared or too guilty to cross the threshold. I did not stop walking until I reached my car. It was old, dusty. The back seat was still full of grocery bags and an old hoodie Pop used to wear on colder days. I sat behind the wheel and let the silence swallow me. The house behind me looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but spiritually. Like the place had shrunk the longer I stayed inside it. I started the engine and pulled away, not looking back. For the first time in years, I was not driving toward an errand or an appointment or some obligation someone else had handed me. I was just leaving. Halfway down the interstate, I pulled off at a gas station, parked under the flickering lights, and opened my phone. No missed calls. Just one text, from Amanda. Proud of you. Let me know when you get there. I typed back, still figuring out where that is. She sent a heart emoji. First one I had seen in a long time that did not make me feel numb. I slept that night in a cheap motel with stained carpet and paper-thin pillows. And I still slept better than I had in years. When I woke up, I grabbed a coffee and opened my laptop. The job offer was still sitting in my inbox. I clicked accept. Then I opened a blank document and started writing down every single thing I had put on hold for someone else. It was a long list. But for the first time, it felt like mine. But before I could start fresh, there was one more message waiting. From my dad. And it said exactly what I feared, but also what I needed to hear. It came in the middle of the next day, just as I was settling into my motel desk, trying to map out what came next. A simple text from my dad. When you're done pretending you're better than us, you know where home is. No greeting. No question. Just that sharp little barb, flung from his phone like it was gospel. I stared at it for a while. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed everything I had been trying not to admit. They were never going to see what I had given up. Never going to say thank you. Never going to believe that I had the right to want more than what they carved out for me. In their eyes, love meant sacrifice. But only if you were the one doing the sacrificing. I closed the message. Deleted it. Not out of anger. But because I finally understood something. Something that had taken years to get clear in my head. Caring for someone is not the same thing as surrendering your life to them. It is not giving until you are empty, and then being called selfish when you ask for a piece of yourself back. Pop never made me feel like I owed him anything. He just needed help. But my parents? They turned that help into a chain. A quiet, heavy leash made out of guilt and family duty. And the moment I started pulling away, suddenly, I was the ungrateful one. The lazy one. The one who lacked ambition. But I know the truth now. I never lacked ambition. I lacked permission. And once I stopped needing that, once I gave myself permission to leave, to live, to want something for myself, they lost their grip. And I found my life. I moved to Kansas City, started the job, made new friends, reconnected with old ones. I still think about Pop a lot, especially in the quiet hours. I miss him more than I say, but I do not regret leaving. Because he never would have wanted me to stay trapped in a house where love meant servitude. Sometimes, people say I am brave for walking away, but it was not bravery. It was survival. Because here is the truth no one wants to admit. Duty without choice is not love. It is control, disguised as gratitude. And I am done carrying that weight.